Alright, welcome everyone back to video reviews slash reacts. So this one popped up in my news feed. 5 Ways Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Changed My Life by, what's his name? Famous dude. I'm not good with names. Anyways, my name is Jeff. Welcome to this channel. We share martial arts stuff, anything martial arts related. Let's go.
Relax, like we talked about, and don't tense up too. It's me. Why are you doing it? Why so tense? It's me.
They don't want me to be doing it.
That Russell did.
No.
So we review him reviewing
I am a student of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, also
BJJ.
known as BJJ. Even after 5 years, I still consider myself a beginner and the proud
5 years, it's pretty good.
Of a blue belt. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about
someone who's
done
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a proper instructor, proper coach, and group of people in a couple of months. Very good.
5 things, in fact, and 5 aspects of BJJ that could make the world a better place. But if you do a YouTube video about BJJ, why would you not include the foremost online voice in this space, Joe Rogan?
There's a lot of people that they learn how to deal with life through the struggle of jiu-jitsu, because the struggle of training is so much harder than most of the struggles that you face in your daily life. It makes you more accustomed to dealing with uncomfortable positions.
And that can be the same for various I guess sports and non-sports, academia, work, that has the same role of playing that adversity and learning how to overcome adversity. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very humbling because you're put in various positions where you could lose oxygen and pass out or die. So
what Joe Rogan was
continue.
saying there, and the time that it became most obvious to me was one time when I was choked out in a guillotine choke by someone that I thought I was about the same level as. In Jiu-Jitsu, there are
not the same level as, but I've been there in that position.
Many philosophies and ideas that are not at the forefront, but seem to me to be present in practice. I.e., it's a literal
shout out to Pat
because of the belts. It's a culture of respect. It's quite ceremonial. You line up at the beginning. You bow to the
those
masters,
who he trains with.
Pictures of the founders, Helio Gracie being but one. Just in case you don't know, BJJ, as it's known, is a grappling wrestling martial art that sort of originated in Japan.
It's a modern martial art that is, I guess, the baby of like traditional judo and jiu-jitsu. If you don't know Gracie, then you haven't heard anything to do with Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
As the name suggests, went via Brazil and now practiced the world over, reached prominence in many people's minds, eyes, consciousnesses when the Gracie family began sport of UFC, mixed martial arts, where fighters from different disciplines would get involved in combat, like someone that's an expert in karate would fight someone that's an expert in kickboxing, a wrestler would fight a BJJ practitioner, and BJJ proved its dominance. The first 4 UFCs were won by Royce Gracie, and this sort of established the supremacy of BJJ as a martial art. And as the Gracie brothers, Kiron and Pena, told me that the BJJ argument was then won. Now, at this point, anyone who is a mixed martial arts fighter has to have BJJ as part of their game. It's like part of the standard. I became fascinated in it because of Joe Rogan when I went on his podcast one time, hearing him talk about it.
Like there's no way you can do MMA stuff, UFC training, without doing BJJ.
I've always known that martial arts.
That being said, people who practice traditional martial arts like karate and taekwondo, what have you, judo, or iaido, or kendo, whatever, they don't necessarily train for the same reasons as people who practice MMA, boxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai. Muay Thai is a bit of an in-between, I would say, because Muay Thai has that Buddhist philosophy um, in that respect, that linkage.
That's a big part of my awakening and my coming into my own adulthood, because I guess I felt somewhat disembodied, like I didn't have a positive relationship with my physical body other than really through
I like listening to this bloke talk. His accent is calming.
sexuality. And like through BJJ, I learned to have a different type of physical awareness. It can be really, really intimidating and really, really scary, but it's ultimately beautiful. The
Here we
first
go.
lesson I suppose I learned was humility. You've got to put on that little outfit, the white gi, the little pajamas, and a white belt that if you're anything like me, you'll be wearing for an awful long time.
Okay, so there's a connection to, I guess, most martial arts. You're in a gi,
And then you have to learn something that
pajamas,
seems so sort of, well, for
dobok.
me at least, unnatural. I've got no background in football or boxing or anything that would be applicable, you know, like so, or rugby or anything like that. So, like for me at first, I didn't even want the close physical contact.
Yeah, if you've done any contact sports, whatever it is, footy, uh, basketball, it does help heaps if you then do some martial arts, whatever style.
I didn't want another male stubble on my face. I don't want to feel breath against me. I don't want to feel someone else's weight on me. But after a while, this became kind of incredible. As they say in jiu-jitsu, you get comfortable being uncomfortable. The psychological applications of that are obvious, that sometimes you're being held in the BJJ position and you just have to get used to it. You just have to accept that that's happening and like that it will pass, it will be over at any time. This leads to another point, surrender. Like that at any moment, if a choke or a submission, like arm bars, chokes, etc., is becoming too much, you can tap and your partner will let go. This really increases and enhances the sense of community. Many times I've questioned that if I'd have started doing this earlier in life, a few things would have been different. I think I'd have had a different relationship with my body, a different relationship with men, and possibly I would have explored homosexuality in my life at some point, because the male crushes that I've developed over the course of it. Kieran Gracie out of the Gracie brothers. I'm sort of I just find myself like staring, like when I'm meant to be fighting them all.
Okay, mate.
It's a bit of a dream, though, isn't it? I suppose a lot of
That's
men
another
struggle with
criticism.
more.
BJJ is pretty gay. Bunch of dudes wrestling,
Being a man,
grappling each other in a.
there's a lot of images and suggestions and ideas about male. There's a lot of talk of male toxicity and stuff.
Not saying
Well, being in a situation where men are encouraging to one another, and the fact that when
I definitely encourage people to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 100%.
it's over,
I want to learn more. I've done only introductory stuff, only a couple of times. I've enjoyed it each time. I remember each time. Yeah, it's good fun.
and after the
It's
end
great
of
for
the
you.
fight, little hug or this kind of slap.
It's not for everyone though.
And then on you go. It's sort of
I don't like the
beautiful.
aspect of the hard, aspects of being uncomfortable, being but those are the good points of it.
BJJ
Humility.
tells you important things about community. When I got my blue belt, I attended a ceremony where lots of other people got their blue belts and black belts and brown belts, and people were called out one by one. There were people from all different kind of ethnic and social backgrounds, and in that situation, in that context, the only thing that mattered was what belt you got, and everyone was encouraging to you, no matter what belt you got. People of all different guys, like everyone was just getting on in this shared context. I felt that even though the rules of BJJ are to a degree a contrivance, even though it's a contrivance based on efficiency and excellence and maximum ability, also it creates tribalism. It creates a sort of a situation where we're safe to, not in COVID, of course, but under usual circumstances, touch one another. The familiarity of that. I imagine in early hominid existence how much physical play would be part of our development. You need only look at how animals roll around and wrestle and fool around with each other to establish dominance hierarchies, but also to establish rapport and affection and love with one another. It sort of brings something to the surface that is otherwise latent and dormant. I learned as well that you know, pretty basic things, that I'm capable of doing quite sort of strong things with my body. I'm capable of exerting pressure, of protecting myself, but also that you don't know what you're dealing with just by looking at someone. You don't know who you're encountering. It made me less likely, I think, to be sort of confrontational or rude in a sort of a street. It made me sort of think about de-escalating confrontation situations. It created a real sense of fraternity. Some of these people that taught me, like my teacher Chris Clear, like Hiron and Henna Gracie and Professor Ricardo, feel like deep affection and respect for these people.
And celebrity privileges, he has had access to the best of the best, I guess. Having a great instructor is so important. It can make and break your experience, and what you're doing does matter, the content. But having a coach an instructor you get / instructor you get along with well, you enjoy the environment. It clicks with your personality as well, and you feel comfortable in a controlled environment to push yourself to be better and to train. Therefore, you can develop, and step by step over time, you improve.
People, you know, like, because there's a sort of sense that you're in this situation that is very, very intense and pressuring, but they're teaching you how to deal with stuff. And it's kind of like being dominated in that way. It can be very frustrating, but you've got to let go. You've got to accept your limitations. You know, it brings things to the surface, I believe, and like Joe Rogan was saying there, that otherwise would remain latent. You know, I'm a sort of person who could be made to feel insecure because someone shouts something out a car window at me. But if earlier in the day someone tried to choke me unconscious, I have a different way of looking at that, a different context. I also, for a lot of people I know, think are sensitive to the potential threat of violence. Well, knowing that, you know, under no circumstances should you initiate a violent altercation, having that as a principle is really, really brilliant.
See, here's a misconception where people think people who train, whatever martial art become more violent. It's completely wrong because, yeah, just if you know anyone who's trained for a while, they become less violent. If they were violent to begin with, I know I've become way less violent just from what this mate here is talking about. And people I've come across with who done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever martial art, they are less violent because they see life in a more broader perspective. Hey, I've been through worse. Hey, this person had to overcome this obstacle, and if I overcame that, this compared to that is so minuscule that it's not worth the time and effort.
But knowing that were one to take place, you have a series of suggestions and methods that are relevant in that context. I think it de-escalates the likelihood of violent confrontation.
With life experience and developing confidence and understanding of who you are and why you had those feelings and why you were insecure and why you had so much self-doubt, martial arts helped me with that tremendously.
I think, like with Joe Rogan, you can see how martial arts is in his body and in his manner. He's a person who talks from a place of kind of genuine.
When you meet people who have had a proper martial arts background, you can tell by their demeanor, the way they interact with people, the way they conduct themselves. You can just see it. This video being 19 minutes, we'll make it a 2-part video. So part 1, boom, we'll go another minute, and then part 2. Oh, I just muted it.
And with a degree of acceptance that people are going to have differing opinions about him. And I think that much of his success comes from the stability that he's doubtlessly learned, according to his own testimony, from being involved in that discipline I think that's why he has such respect and authority in certain communities as well, because he's a person who's been through a number of initiations and processes, who can speak from clear authority, who's willing to listen to people from a variety of different backgrounds, who has apologized when he's erred. I think many of these principles are kind of embodied and inhabited in the martial arts world. So many other fascinating things about it as well, though. Like, you know, you don't, like, I was thinking then, oh, next time I go on Joe Rogan, were that ever to be the case, I was thinking, oh, maybe I would roll with Joe Rogan, you know, who's like a black belt and a badass. But you don't ask someone who's got a higher belt than you to roll. It's against the protocols. It's like, you know, like the age of innocence, or like being in Victorian London or something. Sir, did you just ask for a duel with that brown belt? Yes, I did. Like, it's like there's protocols in place. Literally at the beginning of every lesson, you sort of run round you line up and go whoosh and bow, and then you sort of run around the room doing what are ostensibly the warm-up drills for like shrimping and bridging and all these things, but you're all doing it as a group. It's like you're being hypnotized into one sort of body. Then you pair up and demo the various different moves, like an escape from half guard or some other little bit of jargon. Someone the other day here on Gracie could be like, Russell, what method would you use if you have someone in an armbar? What are you going to do to complete that armbar if they're locking their hand? I said, hello, here on, I suppose what I'd do is I would use the foot maybe on the bicep to try and unlock it, or I didn't add this, my teacher, Chris Layer, told me, you know, use my wrist to sort of apply pressure. Then he, like a few days later, goes, no, the best thing to do is nothing. Do nothing in this situation and wait to see what your opponent does. Because if I'm on the button, I'm waiting for them to make a move. And even with all the work I do on psychiatry, therapy, 12-step stuff, meditation, all of these things are about self-awareness. I realized the importance of embodied therapy, of coming back into your body, not living entirely in a speculative and reflective place,
Well, like
being able to be in the body. And
applying that back to karate. If you do one-step sparring or three-step sparring, they're all reactive. They're all not you engaging. It's reacting to a opponent striking you, and then from there you react.
BJJ is perfect for that, because there are struggles, there are confrontations, there are challenges, things that pass, there are moments of opportunity that you squander because you're too excited. It's kind of a real microcosmic. Furthermore, I don't spend any time thinking there. It creates a flow state, and I'm, you know, very much at the beginning of my journey, and it still, though, puts me into a place of like where I'm in some kind of inner and anatomical harmony.
It was the first thing that I ever did where I didn't feel like a loser. It's like the first thing that I ever did where people like respected me and they liked me for it. You know, I'm like, wow, this is like it was a feeling that I was completely unused to in the 14 previous years of my life. All of a sudden there was this feeling that I was unusual. I was unique. I was special.
Wow. Who was that smart guy saying, wow, there? We need to hear more from him.
That humbling is very good for you. You know, I mean, I don't know how many times I've been tapped out in my life, but it's probably more than 1,000. Probably thousands.
So far, acceptance of being in difficult situations, humility of knowing your own limitations, confidence, knowing what you're capable of.
We're already 12 minutes through this video. We'll make it just one video. Acceptance, humility, confidence. Yeah. To speak frankly, like a lot of people you see that step into a martial arts school are not confident with themselves. They're looking to learn. They're looking to gain confidence, possibly, that they might get. But it does build confidence. It presents challenge after challenge and overcoming these challenges and showing you that there's no challenge really that you can't overcome. And if there's no challenge you can't overcome, then you can pretty much accomplish anything you choose to do.
And the potential for improvement that me, a person who was very uncomfortable in those kind of situations, has become, relatively speaking, quite comfortable. Still a long way to go, but confidence has improved. Vulnerability, the knowledge that we remain vulnerable, and that in a sense relates to humility.
That's humility as well. We are not on this planet for ever / a long time, but it is the longest thing you do living. So we are very, very vulnerable. Death, as I like to say, death does not discriminate. So why should we?
We should treat
And
all
respect.
people with respect, not just on the basis of they might be some badass black belt, but simply because we're in a community, we're in a group, and when those relationships are lived out through combat, in sparring or rolling, as it's colloquially known, you have a physical experience with someone. But I've learned that when I'm rolling with someone of any,
Even your worst enemy you can possibly imagine, if you went through a sparring / battle / conflict, and you gave it your all, they gave it your all, far out, you develop a respect, and you can become pals. There's not, as with anything, there's a lot of differences between people, but there's a lot of similarities too, of course.
sex or gender that feels like they're less physically strong than me, perhaps because they're younger or whatever, like that I like sort of amend and adapt what I'm doing. The same way as I would anticipate other people that have different abilities or greater abilities than me would adapt what they're doing. So people don't fly at each other. There's a sort of dance to it. There's an acceptance. Different, I imagine, when it's done at a competitive high level. Of course, those things have to be dispensed with. But I'm talking about as a member of a community, as a member of a club. It brings up values and systems that are necessary. It's a closer replication of the conditions we're evolved for than living in a tower block where you never speak to anybody, or living in a street where you don't know your neighbours, or living in a remote house. Community, the lived experience of being in a community, of knowing who you are.
Definitely, community is a very big part of any martial arts school, or I guess successful one. Discarding the even the smaller awkward ones. In a little blue room, it's still a little community. They all look little communities. In fact, now I think about it, different personalities and people who may not click with you or may not click with me, but they click with each other. And what's wrong with that? That's awesome, eh? So something for everyone.
And what you're good at and where you can learn, and being able to rely on the support of other people, and knowing you're not the same as other people, and
I need to lose some weight. Been eating too much.
Resolution is possible. These are all principles that I think could change the world, that could be harvested, harnessed in order to bring about more cohesive social abilities. I'm a father of young children. Martial arts, and specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, will definitely be part of what they do. Like, if they're into it, of course.
Parents who do train themselves really push their kids into training because they see the benefit. They see the benefit far outweighs not doing it.
But I'm introducing them to it as soon
as heaps of people I know, parents force their kids into martial arts.
And prudent to do so.
You want to go out? We're going to do it. Yeah, you want to get his guard? I'll talk to the principal here. I did an episode of my podcast, Under the Skin, with Hiron and Henna Gracie.
I think that should be it. He goes into more about those 5 things.
And,
I'll go back to it. Yeah. So, acceptance, humility. Oh, that was quick. Yeah, so to recap, his 5 ways that he's changed his life from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Oh. Failed again. Anyways, I can see it from here. Thanks, cat. Just knocked something on the ground. Acceptance, humility, confidence, vulnerability, and respect. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Make sure you subscribed. I want to bring out more martial art content. So by hitting like, it gives me a dopamine rush, and will sort of influence me to make more videos. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, now I can review videos. It's easy content to make. So, yeah, signing out.